Hello, everyone, and welcome to LKK Log. We are so excited to be back after a bunch of things that have happened.
Hi, guys.
But we are back with Natasha, who you might know from her Instagram handle as Purpose and Chai. And I think you're drinking chai. Are you?
I'm drinking Bonnie. I'm drinking water. Yeah, I was drinking water. I have like a disclaimer. I mean, this is probably bad for branding, but I only drink chai like once in a blue moon. But
Oh.
I don't do well with caffeine, but my secret's out.
Love that though, because we are often like asked like, how often do you drink chai? The answer is none.
We don't
unfortunately.
drink chai.
I had this. It was cold in LA a couple of weeks ago, so I was on this weird trip where I had it maybe 3 times back to back.
Right.
And then it started to feel really weird by the 4th day, and my husband was like, "I think you need to stop drinking so much chai. I think it's affecting you." And I think I was getting like dehydrated and stuff too, so I was like, "Okay, I gotta stop." So I'm just drinking some water.
Well, it's so nice to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us. And just like a little bit of a background, we've been fangirling over your account and everything that you put up for so long. And we just absolutely adore and love and find it so fresh on our end that, you know, somebody is putting their story and their message so forward with so much honesty. So thank you so much.
Oh, I appreciate you guys saying that. And I mean, honestly, thank you for ever taking time to read anything I have to say. Try to say that to everybody who ever leaves a comment or reaches out, because you never think like people are really going to be interested, and people connect or might resonate because so many of us are on similar journeys. But I really appreciate that. So thank you for even having me.
Of course, the pleasure is ours. And so the way that we want to start this is we're officially welcoming Natasha as one of our logs, which is like so cool.
Our people.
Thank you. And so what we want to start with is exactly you. Who are you? What goes on in the world of Natasha? What does a day in your life look like? And that's a lot of questions to begin with. So let's start there.
Okay. I am first generation Pakistani-American / Canadian, because I lived in Canada for 10 years. I was born in the States, spent the first 12 years of my life in Chicago. Then we moved to Toronto, Canada. I was there for about 10 years before I left everybody I knew, my family, and I moved to LA to pursue my dreams of becoming an actress. I've been here for about 11 years now. I've met my husband. I'm a newlywed. We just got married last July. I found my dog, Birdie, who I love and adore so much. He's a stray and a rescue. So, and then a day in my life just looks like trying to survive this pandemic, first of all, trying to not lose mental sanity. But I wake up pretty early. I'm a morning person. I'm up between 4 and 4:30 in the morning. I like to meditate. I love to work out. I do a lot of writing. I'm currently writing my own script. My husband and I have a business together, an online business. So we'll look into that throughout the day, and just trying to be present with my social media and also try to grow my community online. So that's usually what my day-to-day looks like for now, and just trying to stay safe amidst all of it.
Totally. How cool. And, we often, in our podcast and the community then around that we built around Instagram and everything, we hear a lot from people that, have lived in different places, have different experiences. Talk to us a little bit about exactly that, like, growing up, how much of, both cultures have you grown up with, have you experienced, and definitely, what are your thoughts and take on it?
So we were always, me personally, I was so proud. I was always proud to say I'm Pakistani before I'm anything else, right? Because we were, raised to just be built on a foundation of so much of what it means to be Pakistani. And we grew up, I'm one of 4 siblings. I was also born into a blended family. So that was also something that I had to learn to navigate. And it was just, you only get to a certain age when you are with your peers in school, when you maybe realize, oh, I'm not the same as everybody else, because most likely somebody else probably points it out. And then you realize, okay, like, English was not my first language. We don't eat the same things that other people eat. We don't necessarily dress the same way that everybody else is dressed. Even though we were American too, we were trying to find our footing. And, what's crazy is that I didn't have this full realization of it until we moved to Toronto. So when we made the transition, when we left Chicago, we went to Pakistan for vacation for about 3 months, and then we came back to Canada. And I went right into school. So I was in the 7th grade. I was starting junior high. And there were a lot more Desi people in Canada where we were versus where I grew up in Chicago. But I remember in particular, the school kind of made a mistake. Because I had just come back from visiting Pakistan, they assumed that I didn't know how to speak English, and they put me in ESL classes by accident, and they put me on the bus. But it was, it was upne log, so you're just talking to people in Urdu and stuff and not thinking anything of it.
Right.
And then I kind of realized, oh wait, she's actually from the States. She was just on vacation there. So then they put me in the right classes. But it was ironic because I remember the first time I heard a classmate who was Canadian Jamaican, and they referred to the people in the class that I'd just been with, and they said, yeah, those are Pakis. And that was the first time I'd even ever heard someone refer to our people in that way. Because I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know it had a negative connotation. Right. And I said, well, I'm a Paki, because I was like, well, what does that even, I'm Pakistani. I'm assuming that. And she pulled me aside. She said, no, that's a bad thing. You don't want to be that. And I guess it was, she didn't realize that I was Pakistani. A lot of people don't. If they're not Desi, they don't recognize that I am. I'm always confused for some other ethnicity. And I remember just feeling really heartbroken because those were my people too. Like, I had just been switched out of that ESL class, but there was nothing wrong with them. But then I started to realize at the age of 12 how sometimes people see us in a different way and in a negative light. And that was honestly my first introduction of even knowing like that type of stereotype, And so it was all about trying to learn to find that balance. And of course, I went through my phases of where you just want to fit in with your peers at the time, and whatever your peers are doing, you're trying to just not be ostracized because you're a child and you don't want to not feel like you belong in a way. But then you go home and then, you're doing things with your mom or your dad and you're reminded like, oh, you can have, it's about finding the balance. That didn't come from me until honestly probably my 20s and my 30s even. So it's still something that I'm learning and trying to define for myself, because I don't think there's one size fits all for all of us, even if we are all South Asian or Pakistani-American or whatever where we originate from. So
totally. Thank you so much. That's such a beautiful background, and I think we completely relate to the fact that sometimes it just takes time to kind of like reconcile that on a personal level.
Or even like come to terms with it, I feel like. Yeah, I feel like for us too, personally, we, not just, but probably in our I'm still early 20s, but like late teens, early 20s is when we started to realize that, hey, like we have so much to offer.
Right.
Yeah. It's funny that you guys say that, because I think back now when I was like 12 to like 16 even, I didn't find myself to be even attractive. You know how we as females struggle with that concept. And a lot of it for me was because my classmates at the time, well, then the popular girls were always these pretty Caucasian girls with blonde hair and green or blue eyes. And they were super thin and, all those were the ones. And that's what we were seeing in the media as well. So I would even go as far as doing things like I would take an iron, like an istri, like literally, and put it over my hair. Right. Because I wanted to try and straighten my hair so bad, because I just wanted it to lay down flat the way that media had shown me that beauty was supposed to look like. Well, according to them. And then you get older and so funny now, a lot of people want to embrace, the industries are now casting women that look like us, and you see women in hijabs in Nike commercials and whatnot. And it's like, oh my gosh, and all that for what? It wasn't even, you just don't know that at that age. You just like are trying so hard to like kind of go under the radar because you don't want to draw too much attention to yourself. So,
and
it's about finding.
Completely. And to think of that, like what you've just talked about, literally our childhood growing up.
Yeah, totally.
And having done much of our schooling, actually, you came here in middle school. So
yeah, I was like 11.
Yeah. So, having done some high school in Pakistan as well, the very same thing. And having done it in an environment of like, British American schools, etc. uh, literally the same thing where we're teaching, and it's sort of like a little bit. I think of it, and I'm in a little bit of like a horror situation. Just thinking back, thinking like, how much potential do we really lose by trying to, like, put forward images of unattainable, basically perfectionist images of things that just can't happen. Honestly,
100%. I mean, and a lot of it, there's so many underlying factors too that we could talk about. I mean, even with colorism and how prevalent that can be in our culture, and where it even stems from.
Right.
Because, I mean, I have siblings that aren't necessarily the same complexion as me. And then even seeing how our own people received us when we'd go out and they'd be like, well, why aren't you as fair as your sibling? Or why are you darker? So there's all of that in your child, and you're trying to take all of this in, and she's trying to find your place and your voice,
Right.
And then you're also still trying to be a good, like, child at home and try to uphold the things that your parents are teaching you,
Right.
But yeah, I mean, when I have kids one day, I think about the things. I often think about what I would say to them and teach them, and especially, girls and boys, because I think it's important. And I mean, my kids are going to be biracial, so It's going to be, the world is changing. However, I want them to know first at home from mom and dad that you are beautiful, and your beauty doesn't have to look like the next person's beauty, And that's something that my husband and I often discuss, that we do want to teach our kids, because we don't want them to go out in search of themselves in the outside world without at least having a strong foundation at home. And my parents, they're immigrants, so they don't know certain things, and I don't even fault them for that. They're trying their best that they can. They weren't even told these things, so how are they going to tell us? So, I mean, at least for me, as challenging as it was, I'm grateful for those experiences, because one day when there's little brown and black children that come through me, I can maybe have them start in a little, better way than I was. And I just have to tell you guys something funny, because I'm thinking about this too. When we had, I had these beautiful thick eyebrows, because that's a big part of, that's our thing.
Yeah.
And then they weren't considered beautiful. So I was so embarrassed that, like, I asked my mom if I could get them done. She said, no, you're not old enough. So, like, after Quran class, like, the Quran teacher's daughter would thread, and I would secretly just go every 2 weeks, and then they never grew back. And I was like, I should just listen to my mom. But to this day, I'm 33, and they never grew back. And I was like, shoot, and now thick eyebrows are in. And I was like, damn, I should just listen to my mom. So, things like that, I'm going to try to save my daughter from stuff like that. Yeah. Don't touch your eyebrows. Just leave them alone.
That's so relatable. I mean, that is so relatable.
Yeah, I mean, oh my gosh, it was just, so those like little things you just like want to change, and
completely,
but yeah, so.
Thank you for sharing that, and we so relate.
Yeah. It just sucks, because I feel like then it shouldn't be like a trend, It's like if thicker eyebrows are in right now. I remember back in middle school when I had just come here, and it was 10 years ago. I agree. The thicker eyebrows were embarrassing to have. And I hadn't gotten my eyebrows done yet. I remember I got them done in like 10th grade the first time. So yeah, back in middle school, I was definitely embarrassed. But it's just kind of sad that it has to be like a trend that comes and goes. Like, it can just be, okay, thick eyebrows or thin eyebrows. It's fine.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. And it's because I'm an actress, when I started going, so there was a time period when the first, like, the door opened where they're like, oh, we want to see more brown people. We want to see Muslim, women.
Right.
And I'm going in with my dupatta, because they don't even realize, like, oh, I don't wear a hijab on a regular basis, but casting didn't know that. So I'm going in with my dupatta and wrapping myself, right? And I remember one particular audition. It was for a commercial for a big company. I can't remember the company right now. But I remember sitting in the audition room, and I felt kind of weird, and I went, so now it's okay for us to show up as ourselves? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I remember going home and telling my husband, I was like, it felt really freaking uncomfortable for me, because it's like, now they're saying it's okay. Right. And my phone rang nonstop that year for auditions. I mean, I didn't book anything, because then that's a whole nother story. But then when they're casting, they think they have what they think you're supposed to look like.
Right.
And they don't realize we don't all look the same. We range in, our complexions, our sizes, our shapes and whatnot. But it was really uncomfortable realization for me, because I went, oh, wait, so now they say it's okay, so now we're allowed in the door more, So it's, to your point, why does it have to be a trendy thing? Like, why do our features have to be accepted by the outside world first for us to then be a little bit more comfortable? And but it's like, to the point where we're saying it's about building on a stronger foundation and knowing who we are first and foremost, and taking pride in where we come from.
Right.
And I think this newer generation is a little bit more mindful than maybe our generations were. I mean, I'm a little bit older than you guys, but you know what I mean. Right. So it's I'm proud of how everyone's embracing themselves and being less embarrassed about what it is that makes us so uniquely us.
Completely agree. Yeah. Oh, and what you're saying, like, you know, hey, is it okay for us to now come through the door? Right. I feel like we are also going past now that phase of like checking somebody else's boxes, right? Like I heard a lot about, of course, what went on this past year in terms of race in America, in terms of diversity, in terms of just like, you know, injustice is like, you know, a class and a talk and a conversation of its own. But even if we go down, like, you know, the layer of what does a balanced, you know, inclusive panel on a company, on a commercial, on a movie look like, I was literally looking at an Instagram post the other day where somebody was saying that, like, you know, I am exactly, you want to cast a black person was literally the, you know, caption, but my hair has to be this way. It can't be do this. It can't be do that. And so this person was literally saying that, like, you know, we have had years, if not centuries, of molding ourselves into people that can be, you know, accepted. Why is that?
Right.
You know, and so what you were saying is reminding me of exactly that. Definitely please talk to us about a little bit of, like, you know, the acting piece. So on a personal level, we do not know a Pakistani actress sitting across from us, you know.
There's more of us, I realize now. I mean, I think when I first got out here, it was the time of, because I had to like sneak and even pursue it because I was told I wasn't allowed to. When I was really young, it was compared to, in Pakistani culture, if you want to be an actress, you're considered a prostitute. That's exactly what I was told by the elders in my family. So to think, you know, you're telling a child something like that, but I mean, often it's frowned upon to pursue the arts, period, where we come from, you know. Although I'm sure there's exceptions, you know, and I applaud those parents who are a little bit more open. Right. But I used to have to lie about where I was going, even when I used to go to acting classes, because my parents didn't want me to pursue it. And I remember getting caught a few times, and I just had these amazing acting teachers that I'll never forget, no matter where I go in life. And they would just tell me, like, you have... Is it okay to swear? I don't know if you guys allow that. Or do you censor that?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Okay. So my first acting coach ever, I remember he called me and I wasn't allowed to come to class that day because I gotten caught. I think I was like 16 or 17 something.
Oh, wow.
And he said, you have really big cojones. He's like, you have big balls, because he goes, I know you're going to pursue it anyways. And he's like, and I believe in you. And I was like, yeah, it was, it's always been my passion. And I actually have a funny story for you guys about that, which should have told my parents to, like, okay, just leave her alone. She's going to do this. When I was younger, I loved Bollywood films too. I mean, we grew up on them. Right. And I remember when Thal had just come out, and I'd already seen it, but I was so mesmerized by it because I thought it was just so beautifully done. And it was playing at this local movie theater, and I was supposed to meet some family friends there. My dad dropped me off outside, and I went in, and the theater was just packed.
Wow.
And I remember, like it was yesterday, I opened the theater door and I just see, like, that opening scene, and I was so mesmerized by it that I just, like, took the first seat. And 3 hours later, or however long the movie was, I got up and I went, oh shoot, I was supposed to meet someone here, and they weren't even there. So I got in so much trouble, but I was like, I just couldn't help it. I was so mesmerized. I just loved movies. And I feel that way to this day about just film and filmmaking and the whole process. So there's definitely more. You see more representation now. There's more of us. I often wonder sometimes, like, do these young girls that you see now, I wonder if their parents are supportive, if that's how they're able to, you know, go to these auditions and then get cast. And either way, I just think about my experience with it, and I go, you know, it was all a bigger part of the puzzle and just the pieces that needed to happen for me to become who I am today. And I can't change anything about it. And it's a very challenging thing to wait for someone to call your phone and pick you. I've been doing this for a very long time. I've only booked a handful of things, but that's when I met my husband. He has a film degree, and he encouraged me to write my own script and to create my own content, especially because he goes, you have so many stories to tell. And he says, and only you can, these people go in Hollywood can't tell your people's stories the way you could tell them.
Right.
And so that's currently where I am right now. And to me, it's a combination of creating content, like being present on Instagram and creating these, different, I have a YouTube channel and things as such. And to me, it all goes hand in hand, because to me, it's all about amplifying South Asian voices and Desi voices. And we're not always going to sound the same, but we have to put them out there because there's so many of us that need these voices. So that's where I'm at.
Right. And thank you. And we talked about this over our introduction call too, but like, thank you for highlighting the positives of our culture like you are doing, like our voices, who we are, like we're there's so much difference in between, there's so many people, different kinds of people within our community. So like, thank you for highlighting that good part and not just the bad part.
Oh, thank you. I think you and the three of us had talked about this the other day when we first chatted. I struggled at first because I wasn't sure what my lane was. Right. I'm not, always in shalwar kameezes. I don't even have that many in my closet. I don't have a relationship per se with my family. I'm married to an African-American man, and so it was like, if I share, I don't want someone to think I'm trying to like shit on my culture, because that's never my intention. Right. So when I share what I've been through, I was kind of scared and I didn't know what my lane was. And then as time went on and I slowly just put things out there little by little, I just became comfortable with, okay, this is my voice. Not everyone is going to relate to this, and people are always going to judge you. You could show up in your shalwar kameez and be saying all the positive things. People will still judge you. Yeah, that's true. So I just had to do it my way and realize, okay, whoever decides to stay and come and follow on this journey, they're welcome to, and who doesn't, I wish you well. So I try my best to just share what I can, but also, like I said, not being ashamed no matter what we've been through. I'm proud to be where I'm from, so. Right.
Oh, so nice. And thank you for doing that, just like what I had said, because, when we started this, we were so tired. We completely acknowledged the privilege and the openness that our family comes from, having come from a family of artists and designers. And we actually just found out a really cool fact the other day where like our great grandfather had actually wished to his sons and daughters that, I don't wish for doctors and lawyers in the family. I actually wish for poets and like artists and designers. We did not know that.
And the fact that this was in like the 40s was really cool to us.
Totally. So we found that out, but having acknowledged all of that, we know that that's not the case for a lot of people around us. So many close people, including best friends and relatives even that we've grown up with. It doesn't necessarily have to be everybody around us that went through the same experience. And when we started hearing that phrase "log kya kahenge," and we started hearing that phrase about you can't pick a certain thing in your life to do or to pursue because you're afraid of somebody saying something, was a completely ludicrous fact to us. So, we are thankful to our parents that they've often been the shield that we need from the world and, given us the green light to go do things. Right. But even just this morning, we were talking about certain things that having been from come from that culture of responsibility, putting other people's needs before, we think of us. Or, even just about the fact that having to provide additional clarifications of why a certain thing is needed by you to your parents before you can actually achieve it. Yes. It's definitely there.
Still there, yeah.
So, but that being said, all of that being said, the fact that you said, well, sorry, but this is who I am.
And then do it anyway.
Do it anyway. Yeah. You do have big balls. You're amazing.
I mean, I gotta say though, because there's so many layers to all of our stories. I have an older brother who was very protective of me, and he was like the black sheep of the family. He came home one day covered in tattoos, and you can imagine my parents' faces. So he was very he took the bullets first, and then he's right above me in age. There's a girl, boy, and we're not close today. I actually haven't spoken to him in years, but every day, I don't think there's a day that goes by that I don't think about him and how I wouldn't be able to do what I do if it wasn't for him. I remember particularly there was an arranged marriage situation, and he was overseas. He was a professional athlete. He played basketball, and he was playing overseas. And he came back and he said, "You guys are not going to do this to my sister. I'm going to protect her and her dreams." And he was the reason I'm even in LA. He helped me pay for a car, and he put me in the car. And I still remember, like, and he said, "Go make your dreams come true." And he was always very supportive. And when I didn't have anybody to support me, you know? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, like I said, we're not close today. I haven't spoken to him in a few years, but a lot of who I am was because he was like, no, like, she's, you know, whatever she wants to do, I want to support her, you know? And he saw something and he helped me pay for my acting classes and stuff like that. So that's a big part of it. When you have, like, a sibling who kind of, like I said, takes the bullets before you. So it helped a lot on my journey to have somebody.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. And often, like, I feel sometimes, you know, what we fight with is the stubbornness of a thing being done a certain way all these centuries, and the expectation then, you know, just like kind of executed on you, saying that, okay, you would probably be doing the same. But we do have, you know, certain, I want to say, like, I guess, angels or, like, people who want to, like, right?
Yeah, I do. I believe that. I don't know, like, you come across people over the years and stuff, and they have different faiths and different things that they believe. And ironically, like, I've met a lot of people from different backgrounds who will tell me, "Oh no, you have angels with you." And I believe it, though, just because of the things that I've been through in life. Somehow I've always landed on my feet. And I was like, no, there is definitely something, you know, I think I'm supposed to be here to do something, you know, I have purpose, hence my blog. But no, it definitely feels that way, especially when sometimes, like, life just has a funny way of working out the way that it does and leading you. And I believe you're exactly where you're supposed to be at any given time. So I believe that.
That's so cool. And so talk to me a little bit about, like, you know, where you are right now and where you're, you know, you completely gave us a high level outline of what you're doing every single day. But, you know, what is a sort of next steps purpose, if I may, that you are looking to achieve in your next, you know, endeavors and basically the work that you do every day?
Well, that's funny you say that. I just finished making a vision board right before I got on this call with you guys. And I had literally planned so many things out personally and professionally on it. And a lot of it, on top of it, was like all my, like, acting and art stuff, though, and where I want to go with that. And the goal is to keep continuing to create my own. The thing I'm working on is episodic, so I eventually want to create films as well. Right. I have different stories that I'm working on simultaneously, and they always are, you know, through the lens of South Asian voices and our experiences. So there's that, and then we also have just different. My husband and I we have our hands in real estate as well, and then we also have our hands in. We have an Amazon business, and just we're kind of like all over the place. So it's all about, like, trying to just piece all of it together and just kind of organize our lives better. And then there was also an area with family on it. And the goal is to also have kids in the next couple of years. So there's that as well. And for me also, it's just to continue to use social media to try and further build community and to connect with people. And my purpose, I believe, which is funny, no one's ever actually asked me, which I'm surprised. They're like, I'm considering my name, but I feel like I don't know, were you guys going to ask me that? I didn't jump to it, did I?
No, we were definitely.
I guess, that was kind of your question. Yeah.
I feel like my purpose in life is to be of service to others, because that's what brings me the most joy. And that's what I want to continue to utilize social media for as well, is to keep amplifying stories and to connect with people. And I got on there, honestly, to let people know you can get through challenges in life and you can make it to the other side. And because I've been through a lot of crap, and if I've been able to sit here and I can smile through it, so can the next person. So that's exactly where I'm at. And we were also, with the vision board, my husband and I were planning out, like, how to better show up for my social media brand and my blog as well. So that's kind of the next step.
How cool.
That's really cool. So like with like writing, I feel like we discuss this almost every day for social media and for, you know, our content. Like staying not even staying original, but like staying like true to, first of all, what you believe in, and secondly, what your brand or your page is. With so much saturation in your daily feed, how do you like tend to, I guess, kind of stay original and be like, okay, like this is what I want to write about? And of course you have so many different experiences that, you know, I bet the list is like endless, but you know, sometimes you do get that block of like, oh my god, like everybody's writing about something and, you know, getting lost in there. So how do you kind of take out points and stay original about what you want to write?
Well, you're gonna laugh. I've been trying to create a content calendar for months now. Like literally months. We've sat down. Yeah, Sam and I have sat down and he's trying to help me, and we have these pillars because everyone that's successful at it says that's what they've done, right? I try to take like points from people who I like who are successful. And I still haven't gotten to it. And I know maybe that's maybe I'm blocking myself from maybe growing further. But for me, and you guys are probably going to think I'm crazy, but I write on the whim. The day of, the posts just come to me.
Right.
And it's not like I shouldn't even, I don't even know if I should say that out loud, because sometimes, because the people that are like super successful at this, the ones that get paid to do this, they always say, oh, like you're not always going to be inspired, whatever. No, I may not be. I didn't post anything yesterday. I didn't feel like talking. You know what I mean? I had one of those days where I just felt like being to myself. But the irony is, if I wanted to, I did have a lot of stuff that I could have drawn from. But I do maybe this will help. So every Sunday we go and we shoot though. So we shoot pictures for my Instagram.
Right.
We get up early Sunday. We have like locations that we try to stay consistent with because, I have an aesthetic on my feed. I hope it's obvious.
Yes,
like the colors and all that. I was like, sometimes I get lost and I'm like, I don't know if this goes. Like, this is going. I wanted it to be like chai colors, essentially, like the white and the creams, right? And like, you know, so we have these locations. We go and we shoot. And then I also try to shoot a handful of like reels during the week.
Yes. When
I get off with you guys, I'm going to go and try and do some. So as far as like the saturation goes, though, it can be overwhelming. I think all of us can get overwhelmed, especially with your feed and you're just like constantly scrolling.
Obsessive.
And there's stuff that comes up like I'm not even interested in, but because like, maybe I shouldn't say this, but no, I'm going to be honest. I mean, because I've built a rapport with someone, I'm going to support their work. But it may not even be something that I care about, but there it is on my main page. And because I double tap, they're going to keep showing it to me. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
You know somebody, so you're trying to support them or whatever it is that they're putting out there, even if it doesn't interest you.
Right.
And then, like I said too, it can get overwhelming because sometimes I can get anxiety around it. It's just too much. And I don't think as humans, our brains are built for us to be consuming that much information that quickly, that often, right? I have timers on there, though. You know how on the iPhones you can set time limits? I have time limits. I don't always abide by them, but I do for the most part. And I need breaks from the screen because I'll get headaches otherwise. And sometimes you even go down that rabbit hole of this person's growing or they have this and I don't have this. And was my content not good enough? And that's when I know it's time for me to take a step back because I get those maybe once every like 5 to 6 months or something like that. But then I need to I snap out of it quickly because then I have to remind myself, like, do you know who the F you are? Because I have to remind myself, you're not trying to do what someone else is doing, just like they're not trying to do what you're doing. And that's not to say you're better than anybody. It's about being grounded in your purpose and knowing what it is that you're here to do and why you're doing this. So I think it's important to know why, because if you're just on there, I tell people all the time, yes, eventually the goal is to grow your community, right? But I'm not on there just for numbers. It's not, if I was, I wouldn't be able to show up and serve the people that are there now. And that wouldn't be fair to them, because even if one person cares what you have to say, I really don't think you should take that for granted, because there's almost 8 billion people in this world. They stop to care about what you have to say. So why not show up in an authentic and respectful way for the ones who have already taken time to be here, instead of being focused on the ones that aren't even here yet. So I don't know if that helps.
So well put. Right. That's so well put.
I think we needed to hear that too.
No, totally, because
I'll put it to you guys after. Do you know who the F you are?
I love that. That should be on a shirt.
Seriously, because we're always not, well, now we're much better now, but we used to be, especially when we first started, in the cycle of like, oh my god, is this good enough? Oh my god, like, are we doing enough and all of that? But honestly, like, we have met, it's been like almost 2.5 years now.
Right.
And we have met so many cool people.
Right.
And made so many connections. It's like, to this day, like, whoever was with us from like day one is still talking to us today. So, you know, that's when we realized, hey, maybe it's not about like the caption and the post, it's about like us and like what like our thought process is. So that's definitely really cool to hear. Yeah.
I will say, so 2 things. I met my best friend on Instagram, and he is like, he's in Canada, but you know, like, that's my best friend. Like, I text him at all hours of the day. He texts me. We're like in sync in terms of like jokes. Like, my husband will see me at the phone laughing, and he'll be like, is that CJ? He already knows, you know, because that's like the type of friendship I have with this person. I met him through Instagram.
Wow.
You know, and not a lot of people know that, actually. I don't even know if I've ever said it, like, outside of our home. Not even because I was trying to hide it. It's just, like, that's my friend. Like, it's become, like, someone who's, like, a brother to me.
Wow.
So, like, can you imagine if I, you know, didn't put myself out there on social media? I would have never met, like, one of my best friends.
Right.
And then the second thing also being, I do believe that if you want it to be a business, that you should treat it as such. So you show up to it the way you would show up to a job and put in the work.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Because otherwise then it is a hobby. And I think the good thing about the times that we live in now is that we have opportunities that we didn't necessarily have 10 years ago. Right. So there's really no excuses as to why you can't do the things that you want to do. And even with me going back to my acting, I spent many times crying and wondering why I didn't get picked if I went to an audition and I thought I did good and then I never got called again. Right. Or why my phone never rang, period, for auditions. Like, I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, there's a Daisy character. I didn't even go into the room and audition for that. Right. But it took my husband having to tell me, he's like, people, this thing in your hand, this phone, he's like, you can do whatever you want with it. So utilize it. Right. Don't just sit there and scroll aimlessly. Because he's like, now the power is in your hands. So what are you going to do with it? So there's like, the multi-layers of it. If you do want to create a business, like, don't sleep on the opportunities that we do have, because it's totally possible.
Completely agree. And you're so right. Like, actually, we were talking about maybe this morning that, you know, the differences between, like, our dad is a business owner, has owned his own agency in Pakistan for over now 28 years. And, you know, but the tools that he was trained on are like vastly different, actually, completely the polar opposite of the tools that we have available today, you know, from the days of like just putting together designs by hand versus, you know, actually hand delivering them. Meanwhile, you know, Slack is like our preferred way of email now, you know, so things like that, which we really, like you said, there's no excuses. And the other flip side that I'm like really in awe at all times is that what you've done by putting yourself out there, your story out there, and then obviously putting it in a way that like it resonates with people so much that they're actually feeling comfortable talking to you and reaching out to you. Right.
I can't believe that sometimes. Well, I shouldn't say I can't believe it, because I've heard almost all my life where people will be like telling me things and then they'll go, I've never told anybody that. I don't even feel comfortable, but I don't know, something about you. Which is something I'm so glad you guys brought up, because in the last probably 6 months, I had to have a conversation with myself, and I had to say, what are your gifts? Lean into them. God gave you whatever he gave you for a reason. Stop running from what you're good at and lean into it. And one of my greatest gifts that I pride myself on and am so grateful for is my ability to connect with other people, because it's something I am good at. I just never really thought about it, because it's second nature to you maybe. And I'm probably just turning into like me talking about my husband every 2 seconds. He helped me realize that because he pointed out, he's like, you know, you have this gift where you like people just feel comfortable with you and they want to like talk to you. So I get that often where people, they open up, and I think it's such a beautiful thing. Even then, like, you need balance in life, like I said, because you got to take breaks for your own mental, because sometimes you may, you know, empathize with people and carry certain things with you. And you need to have that balance. But yeah, isn't that crazy to think? It never gets old when someone DMs me and says, I did this because you said this, and I felt like I could because you said. Right. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, did you read the disclaimer though? Because if it goes wrong, don't blame me. No, I'm kidding. It's true though. You know, but it's like it's crazy to think. I mean, you're like, on one hand, you're like, yeah, of course, like, but on the other hand, I'm just so humbled. I can't sometimes fathom, somebody out there's actually thinking about me, or somebody said they went and bought this thing because they saw me with it. Like, you can't even, it's weird sometimes, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's surprising.
Completely.
Not even that they're weird. It's just like, if you guys were in my head every day, like, I consider myself such like I don't even know what the word is. I'm just always in like sweats and just not caring. Like, I barely put makeup on. I was like, you actually want to do something that I'm doing?
It's true. I feel like we totally relate. It's so true.
So true.
Just like just the fact that somebody wants to take 3 seconds out of their day and like read what you're writing and then resonate with it and then message you. It's funny because in real life people don't do that, but internet friends do that, and I think that's really cool. And that's why I'm like really glad we actually like put ourselves on Instagram and on out there. So
yeah,
I agree
completely. And honestly, like looking at the kind of like access that certain groups of people have to other people. So for example, if we ever go back to Pakistan, visited once or twice and stuff like that, we're often met with like surprise, I want to say expressions, and sometimes like, hey, like, oh, how do you talk about this or that so openly? Or, how do you put yourself out there, etc. So I feel like what you're doing, and I can imagine all these people in the back, like, just like, even if they are, just going onto your account and just like looking at the content, and, you're providing a way of actually broadening horizons. Something that is not necessarily the case with a lot of people. There are so many topics that are off the table, that can't be discussed, that are taboo, even to this day. And yes, of course, we have that super elite group of people that, thinks that they're the greatest and can discuss anything in the whole wide world and possibly feel like it's their responsibility to. But the people who are actually feeling some very serious troubles in their life, or, or exist in families that don't think that things like anxiety or depression or disorders are a real thing. It's an account like yours, I feel like, is giving them that validation almost to say, hey, what you're going through is real. And here I am, another person who went through all of this. So
yeah,
thanks for that.
Oh, thank you. I think it's important, especially mental health, I think, in our culture, to talk about. I struggled with depression for a few years, and I didn't even know how to give it a name. This was a few years ago. This was like 4 or 5 years ago, and I really hit rock bottom, and I didn't even know what it was. I had to talk to a friend who was older than me. She was in her 50s, and she was American, and she says, I think you're struggling with depression. And I said, oh no, because there's so much taboo around it, you don't want to believe it, because then automatically you assume I'm not weak, I can't be going through this, because you are taught the wrong things around what's sometimes just natural for the body because you're dealing with so much, right? Yeah. But yeah, I definitely got a lot of those messages when I used to share a little bit more about my journey with depression, where people would be like, me too, what did you do? So even with that, like, no one size fits all cure. But I do remember seeing a doctor about it, and the doctor mentioning the things that I could control, that I could change. And for me, that meant working out. I love working out. If you guys ever watch my stories, I bring you along with me with my workouts, and then I ask you at the end, are you working out? Because I try to encourage everybody to move their body and take care of their health. And the other thing for me was changing the things in my environment that I could, getting far away from people who didn't align with my purpose or who I was trying to become. And sometimes that even meant distancing yourself from family because maybe they were not the best for your mental health. And sometimes you just got to make the tough decisions and try to control the narrative as best as you can, and try to help aid, the process of you trying to go through, and your body trying to go through what it's going through at the time.
Right. And we're not taught those things, actually, if you really think about it. Of course we have, and I think we've talked about this before in an earlier episode, but we have health class here. We have, to a degree, like some parts of like mental and sexual health, etc. But there are so many, actually, there are no classes about personal well-being or, or even like, hey, these things exist. If you see symptoms of, such a disorder or such, a condition, this is what it's called. And back in Pakistan, nothing like that at all. And so I think that the internet has created a way for us to like talk about our stories, but then in there, people are able to identify that, hey, I might be going through that actually. Let me just find out a little bit more. We've been blessed to, be able to actually connect with people from India and Pakistan and, those parts of the world where certain people who, live with chronic illnesses that are invisible have talked openly, about them, and other people have actually, said, oh my God, I'm going through the same thing and this is what it's called. So that's definitely something that I feel like we more, and through LKK too, we try and talk about things that like otherwise people might not be talking about.
I mean, we've had a wide range of topics, I feel like, and especially the ones from like our guests from like Pakistan and stuff. Like we have this one guest and she talks a lot about anxiety and severe panic attacks and depression and stuff, and she's been going through it since like years now, and before, when like it was all over the internet that, hey, like mental health and all of that, like before all of this, she was like advocating for it and recognizing that she's going through it. So she started writing blog posts on Facebook and stuff, and it's just cool to see that now, because we were talking about the younger generation being comfortable with their like culture now. I feel like that also has to do with like internet, Oh,
100%.
Yeah, like 10 years ago or whatever, even when we came here, like there was no like embrace your culture or everybody's beautiful. There was nothing like that on Instagram or anywhere. But like now, looking at our like even younger sister, she's so much more aware of like, hey, like you can embrace your culture, and she's more aware of like, hey, this is mental health, or this might be depression, or this might be this, and she knows how to self-help. So I think that's cool for the younger generations, or like the kids now. They're so much more self-aware.
I see that, and I think it's so beautiful. I think there's less shame now than there once was, because I know a lot of us probably dealt with shame, and feeling like embarrassed, because I mean, for me, I thought at first, oh, well, I'm being ungrateful if I feel this way, because look at all the good stuff I have in my life. Like I have a roof over my head, food to eat every day, whatever, but that kind of stuff doesn't suffice when you're just kind of dealing with stuff internally. So I'm glad to see that the younger generation is less fearful and in getting the help that they need, or vocalizing what it is that they feel like they might be going through.
Absolutely.
I just hope that our elder people also like finally started to kind of realize that, because us being more self-aware about everything now, we can see those things in our elders, and but we still can't talk to them about it, that hey, like you might be going through this, or you might need some kind of help. Like we're just trying to help them, but they don't even want to hear it. So I wish that, like, because they still they still have a life to live. I just wish that they self-helped and made it a little bit better for themselves. But maybe it'll get through to them. I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, we talk a lot about in certain episodes that we have said, like, even if it's about identifying, hey, I'm going through a tough time, or I can ask for help, or we've had like an episode on just toxic masculinity that exists in the, South Asian culture. And then obviously in other cultures as well. But, I think what you're describing is definitely like I feel what other generations have been taught, and then how can we break those cycles? And I think like part of breaking those cycles is exactly like, doing what we're doing, and then interacting with other people who have the same sort of purpose. So you're absolutely right.
And then this like stigma of like a parents like having to, or like needing to keep it together all the time for their kids, And you can clearly see them falling apart, but you can't really say anything because you don't want to hurt their ego or whatever. So I feel like this goes on a lot around us all the time.
Yeah,
I'm listening to you guys because I felt so much of what you're saying.
Right.
And then I just want to share, for me, I had to learn to let go of I don't want to say hope, but then the idea that I could change my elders or bring them to awareness that they may never come to. It took me a long time.
Yeah.
But it was because, for me personally, I'm not saying you guys do this, but I didn't want to keep getting let down in hopes that they would change, and then they never did or never were open to it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I had to learn, because, you know, when you start learning all these good things that are helping you, you want to share it with the people that you love, you know? Like, hey, you know, I went for a walk and it made me feel so much better. Maybe you could, you know, and then maybe the walk could turn into a run. Or, hey, guys, I tried this new, like, superfood in my smoothie and it made me feel so good, you know? Maybe you'll want to put down, like, the oily foods and try it. And then eventually it was like, okay, I'm sometimes feel like I'm talking to a wall. Yeah. And, you know, they're not going to listen. And all that energy that I was putting in over there, I had to take that energy back and just keep putting it into myself. And I was like, okay, I can only change myself. I gotta let go of things that I have no control over, because I would probably be holding my breath for a long time for, you know, my elders to come around and to see things in a way that can help them the way that we're learning in our generations, you know, through the help of the internet and as such. So I say, I'm like, I'll love you from over here and wish you well. You know what I mean? I'll be over here and you guys can be over there. And especially because sometimes when people are not willing to, you know, listen or be open to change, that can trickle into your life in a way where the toxicity or the different things that they carry that they're not willing to be more open about, like, hey, you know, you have trauma that's unhealed. Maybe you guys might want to talk to somebody about that. Or this has been passed down from generation because we saw it with our grandparents and then you, and, you know, and then sometimes it's like they're just so religion and culture, you know, they don't want to hear anything that's outside of that because God forbid, like, you know, that you introduce something new, even though, like, I think God put therapy and all that good stuff here for a reason. But, so yeah, I had to learn to, like, just kind of like say, okay, well, I'll wish you well from over here. And, I don't want to impede on my growth and my ability to be open to receive new information so that maybe I can be better. Because, like I said, for me, it's about my future generations as well, that everything I do is with them in mind, even though they're not here yet. So
in a way, what you've just said that you did is way harder, I think, though. I mean,
100%.
You know,
100%. I mean, especially for people who may still be around their family. My family disowned me, so it made it a little bit easier for me to not have opinions on anything because I don't have relationships with them, you know? But even when I did, I had to learn, like, okay, if I'm going to talk to this person in my family, no matter how, and I was somebody, like, things bothered me because I'd be like, you're complaining to me, I have the answer, and you don't want to hear it, you know? So it was really hard, and I put my foot in my mouth so many times by, like, forcing opinions where they weren't welcome. So but it is not easy, and it takes practice, but it's totally doable and worth it, and finding boundaries too with your relationships with your loved ones, and then kind of accepting sometimes that we got to let go of that control. I think one of the things that needs to change and evolve about our culture is that so many of us, because we're just taught this, like, we're always in each other's business, and we think it's our job to tell other people how to live. And then we do it too, even at our age, because we're taught this. We do it with our siblings, you know what I mean? And we're always like, well, if you don't do things this way, you just automatically get upset. And you think that you have a right to an opinion on how somebody else should be living, because that's what we're raised to believe, you know? Completely. So it's like something that I had to learn. Like, even if you think you know what's best, like, you could have all the answers, but sometimes what you have to learn in life is that it's not for you to decide that for the other person. They got to go and make their own mistakes, and maybe they'll never learn, you know? It's that saying, what's that saying where you can bring, is it a cow to the water, but you can't force it to drink?
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes. Yep. You're absolutely right. Yep.
It's like that. But yeah, no, it's not easy at all. No. Especially for someone like me. I'm like a Capricorn. I'm stubborn. Like, I used to think I knew everything. So, but yeah, it's something you gotta work at.
I mean, it shows a lot of, and I mean lot of strength. And I'm so bad at it. I mean, you can ask my sister sitting right here. I'm so bad at that, you know, being able to. But I think, like, it goes actually both ways, because we also identified, like, where does our relationship break apart, and breaks apart when, you know, our hopes or our sort of like expectations and our like dreams of the other person can be like, you know, so much more bigger, and what the other person sometimes just needs is like maybe some room to grow. But then, you know, there's also what you were explaining, like, you know, there's just sometimes tunnel vision when it comes to, you know, what we've been taught or what somebody has been taught, and then, you know, that's all they know, like the ABC, but they never want to go you know, beyond that.
And that's our elders generation. That's something my husband and I often talk about, you know, like, even though we're from completely different parts of the world, that's something our parents have in common.
Right.
So and it's exactly what you said, because I was the type of person where I saw the potential in everybody. Like, I think everybody has greatness in them.
Right.
So then I'd be like, okay, well, bring it out. You got to do this. You got to do that. And I was like, I've been called bossy in my life, you know, and I admit it, like, I've worn that hat, you know, and I had to just go, I need to just be quiet, and I need to take that energy, and I need to focus on myself. And honestly, it's going to sound, I don't know, maybe crazy, but my life did get better as a result of it, because all that energy that I was like trying to tell other people how they should be living and all this good stuff, even if it was, like I said, positivity, things I learned that I wanted to share, when I just took it and I put it back into myself, I was like, okay, life just, it got better around me, you know? But it's all about like learning to focus on ourselves. But it's like you said too, I mean, even being an older sibling, you just can't help it. You know, but yeah, it's definitely something that I think is worth practicing 100%.
Absolutely. You won't believe it, but it's been like about an hour since we've been talking again. But we definitely want to end with, like, you know, because we plan on having you back, and of course having so many more conversations with you. You know, we did talk about a lot of, like, you know, the good stuff and the things that we can improve and stuff like that. You know, so looking towards the future and future episodes and conversation, what are some conversations and topics around, you know, obviously South Asian times American times, you know, westernized culture, I guess, like all of the beautiful melting pot stuff that we have going on in our lives. What would you be more, like, you know, interested in talking about in upcoming or future episodes?
Thing that I often get asked about that I'm by no means an expert on, but maybe I could offer my take on, is marrying outside of your culture. I get asked that like every day. I get a DM from somebody asking about that. So that's something I think maybe we could discuss, and then also to kind of catapult off of that topic, following your dreams and pursuing things that may not be acceptable in your culture as well. So kind of trying to build a life that is not the one that your family wanted you to live.
We would love that. Absolutely. And thank you so much for your time and your energy today. It was just like such a pleasure getting to know you.
Finally,
yes. We've just been like loving you from afar too.
Oh my God. Thank you so much, ladies. I love what you're doing. I love the name too, obviously.
Thank you.
Like, so important, you know what I mean, especially in our culture. And I just think we need more spaces that are held up by our log and our women especially, and just being confident enough to put our voices out there and tell our stories, you know, unapologetically, because I think that's so important. I
completely agree. And like empower other people to, you know, be able to just do it without fear, because I feel like we just don't have that.
And if I may add, even when you feel fear, to just go forward anyways. I try to tell people that, because if I may just add one little thing.
Of course.
I still get nervous when I'm posting or telling stories or creating videos. Like, people sometimes get surprised, like, oh, I don't believe it. No, I do. Because you're being vulnerable, and it's not easy to be vulnerable, you know, where you're sharing personal parts of your life and your journey that you may otherwise keep deeply buried, you know, in here. And it's just something that, for me, sometimes I feel the fear and I just do it anyways, because I tell myself, as far as I know, I only get one shot at this thing called life. So why not do it to the best of my abilities? And the things that we fear most of the time, they can't even physically hurt us. It's just things that we psych ourselves up over and make ourselves feel sick over. And then they can't even really hurt you. But you feel the fear and you just do it anyways. Just go forward anyways.
Oh, what a lovely, lovely, lovely message to end on. Thank you so much. We'll end with that, but thank you so much once again for your story and your energy. We so look forward to having you on our podcast again, and talking about exactly what you've, mentioned that you would like to talk about. Because I think that also is such an important topic, and one which not many people confess to going through, but they do. So with that, Thanks so much, guys, for listening to us. And as always, don't worry about
Log
Woohoo!
Bye, ladies. Nice chatting with you.
You too. Thank you so much.